Hi everyone, I'd like to just take a couple minutes and speak about Chapter 6, Entrepreneurship and Starting a Small Business. So a lot of what we discussed in the last week or so has been about how to start a business and being the entrepreneur and the risk taker involved in any kind of business enterprise. So we talked a little bit about, in the last chapter, about the type of business that you would set up, the business form. That being, will it be a sole proprietorship, be a partnership, or whatever case may be. But there's a lot to think about when you start a small business. The reasons why people want to start their own business and be the entrepreneur are as varied as the number of people who partake in this. Sometimes people just want to be their own boss. There's a whole lot of businesses out there that are one person doing the work, and they don't want to work for anyone else. And, those folks, a special breed of people who just want to, have their own say and their own destiny, which is a great and noble endeavor as far as I'm concerned. So you have a lot of people who are artists, writers, you're web designers, some people who develop code. There's all kinds of professions out there. All of these folks that set up their own food trucks, the person down the street that becomes a cake baker. These are all just enterprises that they're one person, one individual, and just starting their own business, which is, part of the American dream. You never know how it's going to take off. In many cases, those types of business last for the duration of the person's life or their interest in that particular endeavor. But there's a lot of different ways that starting a business can go. So one of the things that people, and a couple people alluded to it in their write-ups, is having enough money to maintain themselves for a little bit while they get their income stream and their revenue stream up. It is, if you carefully read the Moya Mason case study that I gave you, it is one of the leading reasons why businesses fail. They don't have enough financial backing. So just take a couple minutes to talk about, where money comes from. Money comes from everywhere. You can borrow it. Some people save for a couple of years before they start on their venture. Some people work their full-time job and then also work their startup at the same time, so that they have that kind of a cushion. Other people have a spouse or whatever that they can fall back on. Maybe that person provides the benefits or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of different options out there for starting a business. And like I said, there's as many reasons why people take the entrepreneurial challenge, as the book calls it, as there are people who do it. Like I said, some people just want to do their own thing. Some people think they have this fabulous idea and they just want to grow it and go with it. Some people set up businesses that are set up specifically for, doing the greater good. They have an idea and they want to be able to help people along the way. So, and other people just want to make a lot of money. So it's all over the place what the drivers are behind people who start businesses. For some people, it's their passion that drives them. For other people, it's money. Some people just get frustrated with the way things are and decide they want to make a change. So, like I said, it's all over the place. Businesses, a lot of people start out at their home, maybe at a small shop in their garage. As we know, a couple tech companies that are now multinational corporations. I think that it was Federal Express. Yeah, Federal Express, I think, was somebody's business case school project. So these things can grow legs and take off for you. Like I said, there's all kinds of ways to do that. Some industries, there's a term in the book called an intrapreneur. Some industries that are out there will allow individuals who work for them to do some R&D and basically set up their own little unit within an organization. Some companies that are there now have, free work Thursdays or Fridays or whatever, or something like 20% of the time is supposed to be spent on coming up with new and innovative ideas. This is one thing that companies do to prevent people who have some kind of ambition to do their own thing from leaving the ranks of the organization. So there's other ways to be entrepreneurial. You can sometimes, if you're working for the right company, be entrepreneurial in the industry that you're in. Small businesses, there's a lot of information on here. Small businesses have a very high track record of failure. It's hard. And when you start to think about all the things that a person who is the entrepreneur has to think about, if you think about where the money comes from, how to resource, how to do your inventory, how to get your people, training, regulation, legal ramifications, keeping the books in order, how to market it, how to sell. All of this is going on in some folks' brains. And if they don't bring in people who are well-versed in these various functional units, if they try to do it all themselves, usually they have a hard time. It's a lot. I mean, you'll find that even, you're the cupcake baker who has a small business truck or whatever the case may be, a food truck, might have somebody doing his or her web page, might have hired an accountant, maybe has somebody who helps them do the baking or deliveries or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of, you need some help with when you do these entrepreneurial activities. So operations, there's no difference between a small company and a large company in terms of what you have to be concerned with, except for its scales. Everything scales upward the bigger you get. Something to think about. So one of the things that I like to do with this business case that you develop is, I kid around and I say think Shark Tank. But basically, if you attend one of my classes where we do this in person, you would present this to the entire class. And, people basically sit there and judge each other on whether or not they would really want to invest. So it's kind of like a Shark Tank kind of a thing. You're trying to make a sales pitch of why your business would be a good business to invest in or be a part of. So the business plan is a very important component. Now, I bet you some of these companies that are out there that have done very, very well over the course of time probably started with somebody's idea and maybe did not have a business plan in place. But it's a good idea to have documented somewhere an idea of where you're going, what your vision is, what your goal is. To say I want to make cupcakes is not good enough. Millions of people do that on a daily basis. Ask any PTA mom. But to be able to say I want to invest in a $50,000 truck, or I want to get myself food certified so I can go to festivals and that kind of a thing, that all takes planning and money and that, in investment in yourself and in your business. And to have some kind of knowledge of that going into these ventures is very important to help towards your success. There's nothing sadder than having somebody who has invested a lot of their own money, possibly some people in their family's money or has borrowed, and then have somebody, go through the sadness of having a failed business. You see these empty storefronts, small business owners failing all the time. Somebody who wanted to start a storm door company or whatever the case may be. Next thing you know, you turn around and they have $20,000 worth of inventory in their garage that they just didn't appropriate correctly. So it's a very good idea to have a plan. It also helps you to make the determination of whether or not you're engaging in a business venture that has profitability. Some businesses that people get involved with are a lot of fun, but they're never really going to make any money. They might lose money for years before they make any money. So, just because somebody likes to make pretty jewelry, it doesn't mean that they're really going to make any money out of it. They might just make enough justify the cost that they spend for basically it becomes a hobby. It's something to think about. Some people have some ideas that are great ideas, but just not business viable. That's why when we went through the exercise where I had you post your differentiator and your growth, I gave you the opportunity to speak back and forth to each other. This way, if you had a comment to make to somebody, this was the time to say it. Like, I think this is a great idea, but maybe think about this also. Or, that's a great idea, period. Or, I'm not seeing how this is going to turn into anything but a one-person operation. And maybe that's the goal. It's a one-person operation, and it's only there to give somebody some extra spending money or to provide for income for them and their family alone. And that's all very valid. And nothing taking away from any of those ventures. Some people just do it to become, they have to be busy and they like to create, and they really don't care if they make money just as long as they become flush to pay for their own supplies. So if you look at page 169 in the book, that has a high level content list of what should be in your business plan. Now, purposely, I did not talk about a specific format to use. There's plenty of them on the internet that you can follow, or you can just write your business plan in a standard Word doc format, and that's fine, with various headings for, if you're talking about your executive summary or your product offering or whatever the case may be. So based upon this listing is the minimum of what should be included in your business plan for what you present at the end of next week. Now, this is, since our class is such a small window of time, 3 weeks, wow. The requirements for this, I've shrunk down a little bit. For the longer classes, we go 25 plus pages for the business plan development. For this, to between 10 and 15 is probably all you're going to be able to pull together in terms of your text. So if you use big flow charts and things like that, or organization charts, don't count those as part of your pages, because you probably need some more space to get some things done if you really think about your business plan. Now, some people have asked me questions through email about, is my idea too simple? Is this not a good idea? No, everything I've seen so far has been a great idea. It doesn't have to be a complex service or product to come up with a business plan, but really what it needs to be is just a well thought out premise for how you're going to move your business forward. I just want to make that clear. We've gone through a lot of the sections so far. In sections, I think 1 and 2, we talked about what your idea is. And then the second one was, like I said, your differentiator and your clearly defined product or service. Because if you don't have clearly defined product or service, how do you know how to set the rest of your goals? The next 2 exercises I posted for business plan parts 3 and 4 they're not submittable. I don't have a discussion forum open for them. I was asked that question. And basically, I just want to make sure that you're tracking and have, it's carved out some time to do each of those sections separately. So keep those in mind, because the upcoming ones are your financial plan, your marketing plan, your manufacturing, and your location. So we're not going to go into depth about your financial plans, but what I would like to see included in your business plan is, a couple-year projection of what you think. If you're going to set up more than one location or whatever the case may be, one thing to think about is, do I have enough money at year 3 to really do that moving forward? So just a little bit about the plan. Like I said, feel free to peruse the internet and see if there's a format that meets your needs. Some of them are very highly structured. Others are a little bit more flexible in nature, and probably for most of the businesses that are being presented here, those would be appropriate. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about sources of funds, because that's big in this chapter. So you have your venture capitalists, which are people who are always trying to invest in up and coming businesses. Your angel investors, those people who are out there also with money. Small business can assist and allow for loans. A lot of people take, like I said, credit card advancements, borrow from family and friends, sometimes for equity stake, sometimes for not. So there's multiple places to get funding. There's also crowdsourcing now that's available. That's something that's new. SoFi has social financing as its basic premise. So there's different, like I said, there's different ways to get money. Just make sure you're safe with how you proceed with that. Don't get yourself into any nefarious or unethical situations to get yourself funded. Some other things to concern yourself with. Most people do not have natural experience in hiring and managing people. This becomes sometimes an issue for some business folks because if they haven't purposely and clearly defined their goal and their what they have their vision in mind to their new hires, they might have trouble in that. And especially in dealing with family. Just make sure you're very careful about how that is. There's very, very many successful family businesses out there, and that's a great thing. And there's probably just as many unsuccessful business relationships that have involved family and has sometimes been to the detriment of the family. So, if that's important to you, then tread lightly. Make sure that you get support along the way. So one association that the book talks about on page 175 is called SCORE. Now, this is a group of retired executives that usually found in most cities. There's usually a SCORE group, and these folks will help you. They'll help you with your business plan. They serve as mentors, and I think they do their services for free. Many times you can go to universities. They might have business incubator groups within the university, sometimes on campus, sometimes nearby. They might also have grad students who are looking to get some credits for reviewing business plans or whatever the case may be. So if you get to the point where you are serious in your business venture, look for those. I know that the University of Pennsylvania used to have a business Small Business Administration classes that they ran. I'm not sure where they are in the Allentown area, but there's options out there. Usually it's associated, like I said, usually with a grad school. So I know Wharton used to run them there because I had taken them there many years ago. Okay, so like I said, it's one of the stalwarts of the American dream is to own your own company for many, many people. I would venture to say that hopefully this class has given you a little bit more insight into at least some of the things that you have to think about and go from there. All right, I'm going to log off from this and then start with the next group of modules.